Oh, Stuart, at long last, we've got you on the podcast. Had a couple of technical difficulties as well there, just to add on to it. But becoming quite familiar now with the Lowland League and managers called Stuart at this rate as well. We had Stuart Petrie on the last time. I can imagine it's been a wee bit of a hectic one for you though recently, mate, because you had Celtic B at the weekend and a cup match yesterday as well. How's it been personally for you?
Aye, it's a busy period. We've got a lot of big games coming up. Obviously, we've got quite a few. Every game, as I've said before, every game in the Lowland League's a big game. Whether you're at home or whether you're away. And Gretna, we played Gretna last night in the cup tie and managed to win 4-1. And it was, to be honest with you, certainly the first half was really enjoyable for us to watch. But even at that, where I thought we were the better team for the majority of the game. Gretna could have been 1-0 up. Yeah, boys missed a pretty guilty edge chance. So again, if you give any team in the Lowland League opportunities and stuff like that, they're liable to get punished. And what I say is, it's sometimes it can be very fine margins. So, but it's a hectic period. We obviously had Celtic, Gretna again, which I was quite happy we had Gretna last night. Kind of broke up and get the Celtic game out of system. It was the first time this season. I felt we were probably, I would say, well beaten. That would be the first time this season. Certainly not for the effort and the desire that the guys had, but if truth be told, we just couldn't get near them. And that's just the facts of the matter. We just couldn't get near them. So, and then we're obviously going into a big game this weekend at Cumbernauld Colts, was sitting second and third respectively. So, what I say is, at the end of the day, the games you want to be involved in. You want these games to mean something. We're getting into the kind of tail end of the season. We've got some really big games starting on Saturday. Then we've got like Broomhill away, Albion Rovers away, East Kilbride away. These types of games. So, but they're the games you want to be involved in, and it's even better when there's things on the line. Bo'ness, I've been at Bo'ness for a long time, and historically the club has been successful, and we've won things, and we've competed, and we've been getting to the later stages in cup competitions, and that's the desire. That's what the expectation is. So these are the games you want to be in, and we'll see where the season takes us and see how we perform in these games.
See, as a Celtic fan myself, I'm not very big on the B teams. First of all, I don't think it's very good for the pyramid. Second, if you really want to develop your players, obviously no offence to any team, but do you really want to be developing these guys to play at the very top level and the fifth tier of Scottish football?
Yeah.
From your perspective, though, as a manager, how good are these guys in Celtic, Hearts, and the Rangers last season as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, I thought again, as you'd expect, these guys they're full time, so they're playing at big clubs, so they're technically very good. Yeah, they're technically very good. Where it tends to catch out Lowland League teams is the level of sharpness and intensity that they can bring for the periods that they can bring it. Yeah, when we're playing Celtic on Saturday, and I knew before the game, and we spoke to the players about it, that we knew for the first 30-35 minutes we're going to have to hang on because they're going to come out. It's going to be like a freight train. And they're going to be popping the ball about, and they're very, very sharp. Yeah, and as I've said before, as you start to go up the tiers in Scotland, that's usually what the real defining difference is in terms of fitness and sharpness. Not my players are fit, but they're no full-time football player fit. Yeah, some of these guys were at their day jobs. Majority of the guys at their day jobs during the week, they're no in at a fantastic facility up in Lennoxtown or through at Rangers or at Hearts, etc. Getting good nutrition, getting the right training, getting all that sort of stuff. So it's really, really hard to compare. The one thing I would probably disagree with in terms of development for the B teams playing in the kind of Lowland League is it's to kind of get them accustomed to playing kind of men's football or certainly adults football, because constantly playing kind of academy football and stuff like that, great for, and for what I see, it's great for technical proficiency and shape and all that sort of stuff. But when you start to get into the men's game and really into adult football, that's no real life. Yeah, and I'll stand and argue with anybody that thinks it is real life. I've played for years against academy teams and reserve teams, and they do things in games, and I'm sitting going, no way the first team manager will allow you to do that on a Saturday when there's major points on the line. Yeah, there is no way that they would allow them to do that. So again, I think it gives them that wee bit, and it's good for them. Again, because there isn't a particularly good reserve league or academy league in Scotland, it gives them a wee bit of competition where 3 points actually maybe means something. They've got a wee bit of pride in trying to climb a league table and trying to do these types of things. So, but I think the frustration, and I think it's been muted a few times. My frustration with it is that it doesn't make for a level playing field because of the changes in personnel. Now, I'll probably sound like a broken record, but it is a fact. You don't know which team's turning up. And I played in a game against Celtic a couple of years ago. Myself and my assistant manager, Michael, were talking about it on Saturday. We played at the same ground, the two of us were on the park. We got beat 5-1 off Celtic. It could have been 15-1. We couldn't get near them. They had the wee boy Muffet was playing, the wee boy who went to Blackpool. I used to play football with his dad, Alan. They had the boy Vata playing. They had, you know what I mean, real quality football players
You'll
out
be
there.
the team tonight, you think so?
Exactly. We couldn't get near them. And then the following week, they played Gretna and drew 3 each with Gretna. And Gretna were kind of lower down the league, and I was perplexed, going, that's not the same team that played us. And then I watched Celtic were playing Ross County on the Sunday after the Gretna game, and I'm watching it and I'm sitting going, I was marking that big boy last week. And that shows you the difference, you know what I mean? Again, I'm part-time, I'm training 2 nights a week. At that point, I'd have been 39-year-old. And the striker I was marking, can't remember his name, is playing for the first team up at Ross County, or came on for the first team up at Ross County, and there was 2 or 3 like that. So I think that's, and when although people maybe look at, and you'll always do that when you look down the leagues, you always think your league's the best because that's the league you're involved in and that's the one that means the most to you. But when I look at our league, our teams that are in our league as a desire that we want to do well and we want to win. Players at Celtic, they're interested in Celtic winning the Premier League and playing in the types of competitions. So let's take for instance, if it was ourselves v Cumbernauld Colts or East Kilbride who are doing fantastic in the league this year, and it was or Trinent, and we're going for the league, and it's touch and go, and we play Celtic or Rangers or Hearts, and there's a weakened team gets put out because they're in Europe or they're in international duty or whatever it may be, and we manage to win the game, and then the following week the team that we're competing with go and play the same team and they put out a full strength youth set up with more 18s, 19-year-old, 20-year-olds in it and get turned over. It's not really fair. Yeah, it's not really fair. It's not really making for a level playing field, and I think that's where the frustration comes in. Me personally, the B team's been in it. Again, it helps us all raise our standards, and it gives you a good insight into some of the real quality youngsters that are in the game. But it's that for me, there has to be the restrictions have to be looked at, and there needs to be some level of consistency there. Which again, that's not for me to decide, but I think I'm echoing what a lot of people feel about it.
I only see it then from the point of view as it's not high enough level in that, but I do like to look at things, just from a lower league or further down perspective, because it's probably your perspective that's more important, isn't it? You're the one having to come up against them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a guinea pig today as well, Stuart. I managed to get a few questions from a couple of the BU faithful on Brian Bovril, so
I'll be looking forward to that.
Mentally prepare yourself for that, and maybe just a word to them as well. I'm going to make you wait until the very end because I need viewership, so you can wait. I want to rewind back though. What do we need to know about your upbringing, where you came from, team you supported, and just your overall path to becoming a football player at Bo'ness?
Well, to be honest, it was, like I say, absolutely normal kind of normal upbringing. Fantastic childhood. All that sort of stuff was all very, very good. Mum and Dad have been massive supporters to myself. My dad's still a supporter, still comes to every single game. And phones me and likes to give me advice on what he thinks is the right team and stuff like that. And again, sometimes he's absolutely on the money. Sometimes we disagree. That's just the kind of way it goes. But no, like I said, for there, I went up, I played boys club football, stuff like that, and I was in at Airdrie, so I played with Airdrie and I went into the Airdrie Academy. I was in at Airdrie come back a long time ago, is when Steve Archibald was in there. So I was in there over the kind of festive period, and was preparing to sign on with Hibs at the time. So they had players like David Fernandez, Javier Brotto, two players that wanted to play with Celtic from Hibs. And then unfortunately, it kind of went a wee bit wrong, and Steve Archibald didn't, at the end of the day, acquire the club. So him and the manager Don Mackay, who was at the time, left, and I think it was Ian McCall came in. And it never happened. And basically, about the week later, I signed at Camelon Juniors. I think thinking back, would I probably have done things differently? Would I probably have went and tried to maybe have played football elsewhere? Tried to have kind of kept myself at that level, because they were top of the first division at that time. But I think I'm one of the kind of bit of a realist, and always kind of look back, and I think at the end of the day, you always find your level. And I found myself at the junior game. I felt like I kind of found my level there. I think that probably was my level. And I said it's probably a level a lot of people don't get to. So I was happy. It was considered a very successful period. Had success in my 6 seasons at Camelon. I then moved through there and went to Bathgate. Had success there, and ended up winning the Scottish Cup with Bathgate with some fantastic players. Also, some guys that used to play with Celtic, and Barry Elliott and players like that, with Brian McColligan. We had Paul McGrillen up front, etc. We Mowgli used to play with Motherwell and stuff like that. Willie Wilson, Alan Neil, Andy Carlin. So some fantastic players in there. And then from there, signed on at Bo'ness, and I was there as a player for 11 years. Then a kind of year. And then the last year before I retired at the age of 40, I went up and played a season for Derek Strickland up at Armadale, because there was about 7 or 8 ex-Bo'ness players up there, and I says, "Oh, this will be a good way to kind of end the career." So, and then the opportunity came up to manage Bo'ness, and I think I was quite open in that I would only really been interested in managing one club, and it would have been Bo'ness. Because I knew the amount of time and effort and commitment that I would put into it, and I know would have to be put into it. And I was very grateful that after speaking with the guys in the committee and stuff like that they've taken an opportunity, because as much as I've got a relationship with the club, and I had a relationship with the club and considered myself to be a good player, and I was the captain and I was assistant manager for a short period under Max, it's still a big gamble for them. Yeah, it was still a big gamble for them, absolutely, because just because you were there and you played with the club and you had success with the club doesn't mean you're going to be a good manager. So yeah, that's where we are today. So, but no, I'll be honest with you, I'm absolutely loving it, thoroughly enjoying it. It's a fantastic club. The guys behind the scenes work ever so hard to make it to keep the place going, make it functional. And make it enjoyable, and support everybody that's at the club. And we've got a really, really good group of players, which again makes it fun, makes it easy. It makes it easier when guys are wanting to come in, they want to be trained, they want to get involved, they want to listen to what we're saying, and they're all striving towards the same thing. So far so good. Yeah, so far so good. But like I say, when you look back, it seems like it's been longer. But we've only been in this for 7 months, so it's still a relatively short space of time.
I do love that as well, though, how many players you were able to list off that had went on to bigger and better things. And I was speaking to Matt Davies, who's the new head coach of the American football team through here, the East Kilbride Pirates. He was talking about how the gap between NFL coaching and high school coaching seems huge, but all these guys know each other, like all the coaches know each other. I find that amazing how everybody seems to have played with somebody, no matter how far down you go. I find that brilliant.
I think you always remember that. I remember playing boys club football. I used to play for Denny, which is kind of was local to myself. But I still remember playing against Paul McHale, played for Bannockburn. I still remember playing against Gary Caldwell, and the two of them stood out like sore thumbs. When you played against them, you knew they were good. I also remember playing with a lot of players who were fantastic and probably on par with them, who didn't quite make it. And I would say that almost every player that's played at any level would have those types of stories, and played with this one and played with that one. What is really good is it's always good to see players that have started in the junior ranks or in the semi-professional ranks, and I've went and made it professional and really made a career. And the number one that steps to mind is Scott Pittman at Livingston. And we played with wee bits. He came into us for Broxburn, played with us for, I think it was about a season and a half. Really fantastic player. And he's went and he's made a fantastic career for himself at Livingston over the last, which will probably be now, it'll probably be the last maybe 8, 9, maybe even 10 years. That Scott's been at that level, so that's always fantastic. It's something as a club that we actively encourage that. I'm always looking, if players want to better themselves, I'm going to try and help them do that. And what I say is, if there's senior clubs that want to come in and look at our players, as much as we may not want to lose a player, you always take that as a badge of honour that it's because of how they've played at our club that's attracted the interest to go and play at a higher level.
How would you then talk about your education growing up? Because I'm always quite interested in the balance between either being at school but then also playing football, because I know a good handful of pro youth players now anyway, or I know of guys, we've got mutual pals and all that. And then maybe even just moving forward into your career as well, part-time football, how's that balance been for you throughout your life?
I think as you're kind of younger, so again, the football when I was younger, I says we had a set kind of training and stuff like that. And I remember when I kind of first kind of so as I was younger, it never really had any impact, because if it was light outside or it was dark outside, I'd play until the street lights come on, and that's again, that's probably an old terminology that I don't know if the kids, the youngsters still do those types of things, but we used to play under the street lights and stuff like that. And so that was very much myself. As you started to get a wee bit older, yeah, there was days when I was missing days at college because I had a pro youth game down at Ayr United and stuff like that, and I was meant to be at college, but no, I was going to go and play in this pro youth game. It was things like that, but never really had a fundamental impact. And again, because I was probably in that arena with Airdrie for such a short space of time, where I really went through the kind of youth squad into the first team squad, and then training and played 3 or 4 reserve games, and then it was kind of getting into signing a contract to become one of the first team squad. I probably wasn't in it for long enough for it really to have a detrimental impact when I was getting asked to play during the day and stuff like that and stuff like that. So, but no, apart from that, like I says, certainly when I was younger, like I says, football was everything in terms of Saturdays. That was it. Football was absolutely everything. The whole week revolved round about it. I would like to turn around and tell you that I stayed in absolutely every Friday night between 18 and 25. I would be lying if I said that. Still managed to put in performances. Still managed to put in performances right enough, but no, it was. And again, but when I think back to there was some fantastic games and some fantastic players that played even at the semi-professional level, who had really. And again, it's how you measure success. As you can look at players now, you maybe only played semi-professional, but some guys that played semi-professional have won everything there is to win at that level. And I think if that is your level of football, that's really the best you can hope to achieve. It's still a really, really good accomplishment. And it's again something that encourages is for players to play at the best level that they can. But I'm not going to lie. I'm married with three girls, so it is a challenge. And there was when I told my wife, or my wife was inadvertently informed that I took the manager's job at Bo'ness. There was a few frosty moments, and I think there's still a few frosty moments depending on when the phone rings and who's on the phone, type of thing. So yeah, I've got to plot my strategy quite carefully with that one, because like I says, when you've got a full-time job. My job's quite full on. My wife obviously works full-time with 3 kids. You've got all the usual day-to-day runnings of things. And you're trying to then shoehorn in, not just being at football 3 times a week, but are we going to have to watch a game or having to speak to a player or X, Y, and Z. When you're trying to shoehorn all that extra stuff in, it can be quite a challenge.
How would you compare youth setups then from back when you were coming through? Then you speak about Airdrie and then getting into junior football, because I'm sure you've got a wee bit of involvement in terms of what's coming up through in Bo'ness. How would you compare them?
I think there's far more opportunities. I think there's far more opportunities now than there was when I was coming up through, and they're obviously starting kids an awful lot younger. Whether I think that's a good thing or a bad thing, I'll be honest. I'm probably not close enough to it. I've got a few family members who are involved in it and they speak very, very highly of it, and the coaching's good and stuff like that. But I'm not sure it quite sits well with me that clubs are kind of casting a net out and kind of sweeping children up at, and they are children, they're sweeping children up at 6, 7, 8-year-old, and they're in it, at Rangers, at Celtic, at Hearts, at Hibs, and it's in there, and it can be quite dangerous, in my opinion. It can be quite dangerous because the opportunities and the chances of those kids making it at that level are minuscule. Absolutely, they are minuscule, and the stats will tell you that. I think, for me, there's still a place for localised boys and girls football clubs and playing in localised competitions and stuff like that. And again, there was some fantastic clubs growing up. Your Gairducks and Denny, Hutchison Vale. How many players did Hutchison Vale produce over the years? The numbers must be off the chart in terms of the amount of players that they must have produced, especially for the two Edinburgh teams. So I think there's still a good place for that. But I would certainly say there's more opportunity. Yeah, and especially when I just look at Bo'ness, and you're doing it Bo'ness any night of the week, there's a whole range of different age groups all in the park, boys and girls. They're all there and they're all having a really, really good time. So I think the pathway's definitely there. The introduction of the 20s leagues within the kind of the lower league, and even some of the third division teams or the League Two teams, and your East Fife and your Spartans and your Bonnyriggs, etc., have looked into that as well. So again, that's improving the standard and helping the young players to progress as well. So, and we've had a few of the 20s players, the younger players, come in and play part of our team in the last few weeks as well. Again, so not always possible to do it every game, but you're trying to create that pathway to give players that have maybe bloomed a wee bit late, have maybe been involved as in part of the kind of pro youth setup all the way through their teens, and have maybe just developed that wee bit later, has given them that opportunity to kind of try and step forward and be as good as they can in the kind of game.
Is that then almost the lure for them, is being able to, not necessarily promising first team football, of course not, but it probably is very easy for a young person. You look at maybe guys to more extreme level, guys like Ben Doak, Calvin Ramsey, for example. Of course, he was getting a couple of run-ins at Celtic, and then Liverpool comes in for both of them, and then bang, gone. And that is because you can't turn Liverpool down, can you? But when you're young, it probably is easy for a big club to come in for you, even if you're in the under-18s, and take you. So what is almost your pitch, your lure to people to take on the local challenge as opposed to just shooting for the stars off the bat?
Well, again, so quite a wee bit of the kind of Lowland League, certainly the Lowland League, is we'll on the rare occasion be able to pull players from kind of leagues that are higher. We've managed to do it we've got a fantastic player in the door in Kieran Mitchell. Kieran's been with us before, came in for Wraith Rovers, and a fantastic player. But it's, if we're trying to bring in players, within the Lowland League, there's quite a good proportion of loan signings will come in again and again. We'll bring the players in and on loan again. Opportunities to play first team football, because as I said before, the academy football or the reserve leagues and we've got a young laddie in the new Lucas Stenhouse, who he was in on loan for Livingston, fantastic player, and they asked to say they'll have to play a few reserve games. So I went, right, okay, when's the reserve games? I think it's a Wednesday. I think there's only about 6 reserve games in a full season. So it's if you're not playing in these 6 reserve games, it's what other games are you playing in? Tuesday night bounce matches, and it's so that's really the lure. The lure is, and I know you were saying there earlier about is them playing in the tier 5 at a high enough standard. Maybe for Celtic and Rangers it's maybe no, but certainly as you start to come down the pyramid and you're looking at players that are in the Championship and stuff like that, and you're looking at League 1 and League 2, players that are not particularly playing, or young players that are not getting game time, but are probably good enough, they can come in and challenge for a space in a Lowland League team. That's the lure. Well, because I says to you, when I was growing up, everything focused towards a Saturday. If you're a football player and you're not wanting to be playing football on a Saturday afternoon, be it 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, or 5 o'clock, doesn't matter. For me, there's something wrong. You didn't want to be playing your season sporadically at 7:45 at a sports centre every Tuesday night. You don't want that. You want to be playing in something that's actually meaning something and be part of a squad that's actually trying to achieve something.
Aye. What then would you say were the highs and lows of your playing career at Bo'ness? Did you go back to Bathgate during your career? Did I read that right, or was it just Bo'ness the whole way through?
No, I did. Well, I didn't. When I left Bathgate after we won the Scottish Cup. I went to Australia and New Zealand, so I played for a team in New Zealand called Waiuku. So kind of played in there. It was basically the New Zealand version of the Championship. And played in there. So again, that was a wee bit of experience. I wasn't really there to play football, to be perfectly honest. I was just there to go and do a bit of sightseeing and do a wee bit of that. So, but I had a friend over there, and the 2 years ended up playing with the local side. So after that, I kind of came back to Bathgate. There was a wee bit of change of the guard in terms of William Hull had left, and Graham Love came in as manager with Alan Middleton. I was there for a season. And then the kind of option came in to go to Bo'ness, and I went to Bo'ness. I think that's once I tend to get into a club and I tend to kind of get settled and I get a bit of an affinity with the club, then I kind of tend to stay there. And to answer the question about highs and lows, to be honest with you, I think the reason that I stayed at Bo'ness for so long is there was very, very few lows. Obviously, I had a few games and cup finals that we didn't win, and cup semi-finals, and I think getting sent off up at Rutherglen, Glencairn, for something that it was ludicrous, for basically inciting crowd trouble, which was just absolutely ridiculous.
It's one tiny wee stand on the halfway line. You've got a train line and a motorway behind you. How did you manage that?
80% of the fans in that side of the stand were Bo'ness fans, including my dad and my father-in-law. But apparently I was trying, and there hadn't been any needle in the game. You know, it was a big Scottish Cup game. There hadn't been any needle, so I just kind of gave it a kind of one of them, and I got sent off for inciting crowd trouble. So I missed the semi-final against Irvine Meadow, which again, had I played, would we have won it? I don't know. I was playing well. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, but I wanted to play in it, and I think that's what was so disappointing. I wanted to be there. I think we had a really good chance of going and lifting. I think if I've got a regret, I don't think as a team in the squads that we've had over the years at Bo'ness have done well enough in the Scottish Cup. That's probably my low. On the high, we've won several cups, back-to-back Super League titles in terms of the juniors, which again had never been done. So again, they're all very, very, very big positives for us, and again, it gets the Bo'ness community coming out as well. So again, that's probably I would say is the highs.
Well, it's interesting because when I spoke to David Proctor and Stuart Petrie, they both went. Well, David went to Edmonton in Canada after he left Inverness under Terry Butcher, and Stuart Petrie went down to Australia, and then he had a really brief stint in Singapore as well. So they both went down there in the twilight years of their career. You were down there at the start of your career. What did you make then of New Zealand as well? Because New Zealand's top team is in the Australian League.
Yeah.
So what's the whole football culture? What's the whole feel about the place with it down there?
I think when I was there, it was certain periods of the year you played football. Other periods of the year you played rugby. Other periods of the year they were very, very sporty. Very sporty. And rugby's obviously the number one sport. It's the All Blacks. And that was the challenging thing, because I don't really like rugby. So every time you put on Sky Sports, it was rugby on every channel. That took didn't take a bit getting used to. I just didn't watch it. And you had to stay up to 3 o'clock in the morning to get the Premiership games. So I says the quality wasn't the best. But for me, again, it was merely a kind of social thing. But certainly when I was there, you know what I mean, there was people were asking me, and people that ran the kind of club at Waiuku and stuff like that, why do you not go down to Wellington and have a trial with the Wellington Phoenix and all this sort of stuff? And I'll be honest with you, Charlie, wasn't really interested. You know what I mean? I wasn't really that interested. I went down to Wellington. I was there for about 3 days. I went, this is pretty nice. I bought a second-hand Audi and drove all the way back up to Auckland in one day. You know what I mean? So, which is quite a shift, but I managed to do it. So it was. It wasn't really in my kind of thought pattern to do that, because I didn't go across there to make it a football career. I didn't do that. I just went across there to go and see a wee bit, and basically enjoy myself a wee bit. So it wasn't really about the football.
Oh well. I see. I think even in that though, people do forget that sometimes football players have got lives as well. Like you look at guys who do go to America, Australia, and all that, and it's like sometimes don't just factor in that they might just want to go for the nicer weather at times. In terms of the managers that you had, who would you say was the manager that got the best out of you as a player? But then also, who gave you the most wisdom and experience now that to go in and be the manager that you are now?
There's a few. The first manager I had at this level was Eric Sinclair, and that's whose son I was playing with across New Zealand with Derek Sinclair. Eric Sinclair used to play with Dundee, play at a high level and stuff like that. And I think when I first came in, Eric had, and I kind of try to put in the words how much Eric Guinna gave to myself. I mean, absolutely slaughtered me at times, but again, it was that kind of tough love, and I needed that. Yeah, I needed that, and he certainly made me robust and resolute, and basically determined to go out and prove him wrong. And I remember one day somebody shouted from the side of the park, "Why are you always on Hunter's case? Why do you not pay him a compliment?" And he quickly answered back, "Pay him a compliment. He's in my starting 11 every week." So, and it's wee things like that, and you're saying, going, well, fair play. So Eric Sinclair gave me an awful lot, and that's why I asked him when I had my testimonial at Bo'ness. I asked him to come across and be the kind of celebrity manager, if you would be. The team's already picked, but just, you know what I mean, you pick a manager and stuff like that. But so I'd asked Eric to come and do that, and then again, I'd probably say at Bo'ness. We had Alan McGonigal for such a long time, and I've got a really good relationship with Alan, and I think Alan had type of people, and certain types of people that he kind of got on with, and he didn't suffer people very easily if he didn't think they were doing the job. So I think if you manage to get and play in there for a number of years, which myself and the likes of Michael Gemmell and Nicky Walker and Chris Donnelly, Will Snowden, these types of guys, all kind of long servants of the club. If you managed to play for a few years under Alan, you almost took that as a bit of a badge of honour that, well, I must be doing something right, because if you weren't, you'd have been quickly replaced. So, and again, Alan built some really successful teams at Bo'ness. So, no, I would probably say the two of them. But if I'm going through all the managers that I've had, Charlie, to be honest with you, again, and it's not about me not saying I didn't like a manager. I can't really think of a manager. Actually, I would consider myself, certainly as a player, certainly as I got a wee bit older, and which is probably why Eric had to be on my case. I found myself to be a pretty low maintenance player. Yeah. I didn't really ask for much. I was quite happy. I just wanted to turn up. I'd go out and I'd play centre half. I'd header footballs and I'd kick them up the park. I knew my limitations. I knew what I was good at. I knew what I was bad at, and I just went and I done that. And to be perfectly honest with you, it seems to have done me all right in terms of the level of football that I was playing.
When did the whole proposition of coaching come about? Because you were the assistant manager before you became the manager, and then really, why did you want to go on and continue your career in football? Because you were saying about there was a couple of frosty conversations with your wife when you took the role. You know, what really sparked you to want to continue on?
Well, I think again, I'd say that the only club I've probably done it for was Bo'ness. Yeah, I'd been playing football for an awful long time. It's not particularly fair for my wife that every Saturday and every Tuesday and every Thursday I'm not there, and she's got to deal with 3 kids. It puts limitations on weekends away and all these types of things that you would look to usually do. And as the kids get older, there's dance classes, there's all these different types of things that as parents you've got to be involved in, you've got to help facilitate. So it can't always be about yourself. very rarely is it about yourself. You're usually always doing it for somebody else. So, but no, I says as the assistant manager, I'll be honest with you, didn't really like it that much, because I wanted to make the decisions. Nothing wrong with the decisions that Max was making.
No.
It was just I wanted to make the decisions, because I seen, and I was quite open with Max at the time, and it wasn't a case of we were going to fall out about anything. I've got a great relationship with Max as well, and I got on really well with him, and he was a really, really good guy to myself, and when he was at Bo'ness. But if I didn't agree with something, I would say I didn't agree with it, but that didn't necessarily mean Max was going to change his mind. Yeah, and I found that a wee bit kind of frustrating. And he was well within his rights to go with his opinion. It was his name that was above the door. So, and it was probably that. And then Ian Little came in as kind of one of the head coaches as well. And I thought, it's probably better that I'll just because I wasn't overly enjoying the assistant manager position. I'll let Ian come in. He'll come in and do that job. He's worked with Max before. Comes in with a bag of experience. So I decided to go and have a final season at Armadale before I kind of hung up the boots. So, but like I said, when the job came in the second time, it came up twice because Max left, and then I didn't apply for it. I didn't apply for it at that point, and it went to Ian Little, as I kind of thought that's what would happen. So I said I'm not going to bother because I thought they would give it to Ian because Ian's kind of in the seat. And then when Ian left, which was in kind of short space of time after, and I could see the kind of club was it was a wee bit stuck. It was towards the end of the season. There was a wee bit of thing there. I says, nah. Myself and Michael had a wee chat about it. Again, that was important to me. Michael's a very, very good friend of mine, and as a parent, we can have robust conversations where we need to. We can fall out with each other if we need to. Very rarely does that happen because we both think very, very similarly. And the two is kind of went, I quite fancy giving this a go. So I put the application in, and the club wanted to speak to me. I don't know, disappointed if they didn't want to speak to me, to be honest with you, after being there for 11 odd years. But no, I went in and spoke to them, and they were thankfully they decided to offer me it. So, and to be honest, once they'd offered it, I think the reason it got frosty was because they offered me it. I was that happy they had offered me it. I just said yes, and then I had to go and break the news to my wife that I'd already said yes. So I think that was it. I think if I had spoke to my wife in the first instance and convinced her, we'd have probably got past the frostiness.
Well, you say there you're one of the biggest fan of being assistant manager, but finally the big one came along, the heir to the throne, you think, after so many years at the club. How did that one come about then? Because you had a testimonial, didn't you? And then was it the season after you were then meant to take over? How, as much as you say you weren't a big fan of being assistant manager, then how did it get to the stage where they were like, we'll have you instead then?
Oh, well, like I says, because after my testimonial and then Ian Little coming in, I thought that was probably the right time. I said, probably the right time to leave. I'd spoke to Derek Strickland up at Armadale. The likes of Chris Donnelly was up at Armadale. Robert Sloan was up there, Colin Leaper, Colin Strickland, a lot of Rory McClellan, a lot of players up there that knew big Andy Murphy. And I says, you know what? I don't think I'm quite good enough to do a Lowland League level anymore. I was 39, 40 actually at that point. I says, but this will be quite a good way to kind of sign off. So up there, we helped win promotion for them, which was fantastic. And then I says Max left. I think Max left in the January, something along the lines. And then Ian came in. I told you I didn't apply for that at that point because I was still playing. And I told Derek Strickland that when I signed for Armadale, because he asked me, he says, are you thinking about taking any manager's job? I says, unless it's a Bo'ness job, you don't have to worry. And he went, great, that's fine. I says, I completely understand that. And then, like I said, it was the end of the season, and Ian Little took the decision to go and work with Max again at Trinent. Mm-hmm. And the opportunity was sitting there. So that's when I had the chat with Michael Gemmell on the golf course at Rathall. The two of us made a decision. I said, do you fancy it? He went, yeah. I said, well, I fancy it as well. So we'll stick an application in and we'll see where it takes us.
Well, you can't really have too many regrets about this season. It's been pretty miraculous so far. I've had two of the top three managers as it stands in the league. So if Mick Kennedy, if you're watching, mate, I'm waiting. Cy Ferry, if he fancies it as well, wouldn't mind that. But I know you'll have had a lot of different factors which will all add up to where you are right now. What would you put it down to? Like, what would you determine as being maybe the biggest contributor to how successful you've been this season?
the aptitude and the determination of the players without any shadow of a doubt. Yeah, I've not come in, Charlie. I've not come in, and there's Michael. We've not come in with magic wands. Yeah, the players that we've brought in. Yeah, we've brought in good players to the football club. No doubt about that. Yeah, we've brought in good players. So yeah, we'll take a large part of the credit in that front. All we've given the guys is a foundation and a belief to go and try and play the way that they can play, and trying to simplify it for them. The biggest thing I feel at this, the biggest thing I feel you get at this level is people try and overcomplicate what is essentially a very simple game. Yeah, they're trying to get players. They're trying to get players to do things that they probably don't have enough time on the training part with them to actually get them to do, and then wonder why it fails and it breaks down. Yeah, because you've not got enough time with them to train them to do these types of things. So unless you're bringing in players who have played at a very, very high level and bringing them in en masse, then you're going to struggle to play the same types of formations and flowing football and all these types of different things that you see on the TV every week. You're going to struggle with that. And I see that. That's not just a lonely level. I see that happening all the way down the pyramid, all the way to the very bottom tier. I see teams on bobbly football parks trying to get centre halves to split, and then the centre half loses the ball, they lose a goal, and everybody's looking about going, oh, we're trying to do it the right way. No, the right way to play football is the way that wins football games. That's it. It's no dressage. You don't get points for how you look. You get points for how many games you win. And there's certain games where we will step up and we will be the favourites to win the game. And I expect my team to keep the football. 100%. I expect us to keep the football. I expect us to play attacking, offensive football. I expect us to do the basics right. Yeah, where we can. They play at this level for a reason. They're going to make mistakes. It was the same with me. I played this level for a reason. I made mistakes. If I didn't make mistakes and I was fit enough, you'd have played at a higher level. So there's always that balance to be struck. Yeah, and there's games where we go against teams where they're going to be probably technically a wee bit better than us. So we have to find a different way to try and win the football game. And if that's stretching the game, if it's playing in behind, if it's playing a wee bit more defensive, and that's my job and Michael's job to try and find those wee bits, those wee kind of changes that can help us be competitive in the games. But it's all built on a foundation of doing the basics correct and working harder than anybody else on the park. I'm not worried about individually. Do your job and work harder than everybody else in the park. And if you do that, all the wee things that you're trying, the wee flicks from corners, the wee slide passes. And I say that to our strikers as well. I says, you notice the harder that you work, the more chances you get. That's not a coincidence. I says, that's because the harder you work, you earn those chances. These things then develop for you. And if you've worked your socks off and we've played well and you've no made mistakes and we get beat, there'll be no complaints for me. There'll be no complaints from me. And that's happened a few times this season. We played teams. We played Albion Rovers. We got beat 1-0 against Albion Rovers at home. It was a really, really competitive game. I thought the guys done great. It could have went either way. And Albion Rovers took their chance when it came, and we didn't take one of your chances. And I come off the park and I said, I can't ask for any more than that. It's just one of those nights. It's fine margins. And if you can do that, and you can do that more often than you don't do it, then the way I see it, you'll be successful. So, and like I say, it's very much testament to the guys that bought into what we're trying to do, but it's their work rate and their desire to improve and make the club be in a strong position this far in the season that's definitely got us there.
I find that incredibly refreshing, Stuart. I'll have a nice tactical breakdown as much as anybody showing me what triangles Arsenal have tried to implement on the pitch against Southampton at the last weekend, but it seems really straightforward then. Well, of course it's not, but just to strip it back and take all these wee fancy things that we talk about today in football and just talk about the fundamentals. What about the whole mentality and the mental side? Do you feel you've had a direct impact on that, on the players? Because you say they've had great determination. Would you say you've had a good bit to do with that?
Well, it's something that we kind of try and drum into them right for the word go. Yeah, it's fit. So for every kind of training session, we try and keep the standards up. We try and keep it interactive. We try and keep it fun. So I try and do things, or we try and get the coaching staff to do things that I would have found fun. Yeah, things like crossing and finishing. I used to always love crossing and finishing, but it seems to become unpopular. I don't know why. Yeah, everything's got to be a rondo. There's a time for a rondo. There's time for these things. Yeah. But sometimes you just want to have a game of football. Sometimes you just want to roll it out to the wide man, and the wide man crosses it in. You've got two strikers, front and back post, and somebody tries to score a goal. So again, it's just trying to do that and trying to keep it really kind of interactive and fun with that. And on Saturdays, again, it doesn't happen every week. Yeah, it doesn't happen every week, but on certain points, let's say when we speak to them, we try and get them to do the basics and go out and work and we're building a good squad, a good characters. That certainly helps us. Because we've got competition for places. So if guys can't maintain that, or we can make changes and stuff like that, and we've got depth of squad there.
Anybody that has hung around until this point is probably those Bo'ness supporters that want to hear their question. We're essentially doing what artists do at gigs. They go off for 2.5 minutes and then come back and sing 3 songs, and then they actually go off. I want to touch on those supporters then, actually, Stuart, because me myself, I'm a Celtic supporter, even though I love all the Scottish football. It's superb. I mean, I probably wouldn't be here if I didn't love the rest of it, but I've got one of the best views of the stadium outside that window. And to put it into context, I've got a pal that's a Queen's Park supporter, and he's not had a lot to cheer about this season. And sometimes I look and I just think, what are you doing? Why are you putting yourself through that misery? What do you have to then say about, the Bo'ness supporters that, do turn up every week and, in an era where everybody likes to support the big teams, and does that 12th man really exist down in the 5th tier as well?
I think the Bo'ness fans have certainly in my time, they've been absolutely fantastic. Been fantastic with myself. Again, at that level of football, Bo'ness is one of the best backed clubs. We're obviously trying to encourage the younger generation of fans to come in, and the club have done a few initiatives this season to try and promote that. Because you're right, like I say, the draw the big two in Glasgow or the big two in Edinburgh certainly has its pull, and Bo'ness sit right kind of in the middle, and we also have Falkirk to contend with as well. But like I say, certainly when you come to the big games, like when we went down to Morton this year and we played down at Morton, we had a fantastic support that went down there. They were singing all through the game. There was even pyrotechnics went off in there. We're not meant to do that, but I'll be honest with you, it certainly added to the atmosphere. It's not something that we usually get, so it certainly added to the atmosphere. So again, I think it's and I would class myself in that bracket, and as strange as that may seem to maybe even guys like yourself who follow Celtic and my wife's family, my father-in-law and my brother-in-law, they're Celtic season ticket holders. A lot of my friends are all Rangers supporters and stuff like that. I've never supported really either of those two teams kind of growing up. And I think me personally, I would probably get more enjoyment for going down to the local park and watching a game of football than sitting in a stadium and watching Celtic, Rangers, Hibs, Hearts, any of them, to be honest with you. That's just me, and that's my kind of personal preference. So, and I think again, there's a wee bit of that kind of pride as well, as for Bo'ness United being in, and Bo'ness is it's not really attached to any other kind of towns. There's a wee bit of a distance between that and Grangemouth. They're certainly not going to go over the hill to watch Linlithgow, and Linlithgow's certainly not going to come over to watch Bo'ness. So if you're in Bo'ness and we tend to see our kind of our support fluctuate a wee bit depending on when Rangers and Celtic games are, and Hearts and Hibs and these types of things as well. So, but no, and in general, that says that the fans are absolutely great. They want to see the team do well. They want to see the teams be successful. And I think I mentioned to you the other day about let's say big Scottish Cup ties through Rutherglen and stuff like that. And when you're looking in the stand, the vast percentage of fans that are there and are paying as Bo'ness United fans. So that can't do anything but help you and but support the team, because going away to a ground, certainly if you're going away through West and you're through in Ayrshire, you're through in Glasgow, and we've been doing in Ayrshire a few times, doing at places like the Talbot and Hurlford, and they're well supported as well, and it can get a wee bit kind of frosty at times. So when you look on, there's a wee bit of a sea of blue there to kind of help support our guys. it can't do anything but help you. So no, but in general, it says fans are absolutely fantastic at our club, and that's one of the things that we try and it's to give them certainly give them something to cheer about, and trying to win trophies for them, for the club, for everybody. I know that's a bit of an old cliche, but at the end of the day, we want those guys coming back in. We want those the men, the women, the children. We want them in the ground, because playing in front when they're playing a game of football when there's no any fans, when you have played in front of fans before, it's no much fun. Yeah, you want that crowd, you want that atmosphere, the good, the bad, and the indifferent. When they're telling you you're absolutely useless, and I've had that shouted at me several times. I'd still rather somebody was shouting at me that I was useless than nobody standing there caring if I was useless or no. So again, it certainly adds to the atmosphere.
Well, I got a very massive 6 things to read out. Actually, that was probably about 5 more than I actually thought I would get. It's of pie and bovril, of course, the staple of the Scottish football diet. I just had a light bulb moment there as well, thinking I could punt it on that actually. But I normally like to finish off by taking a wee leap into the future, but somebody's already done it for me here. So I've got it here from Bo'ness BWAH _. Don't even want to ask what that means. If all goes well and he's here for the long term, I'd like to ask where he sees the club in 5 or so years' time.
5 or so years' time.
I know, it's a wee bit of a leap, that, isn't it?
Stretch, yeah, that's a bit of a stretch. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of factors going to that length of period of time. Like I says, I was there as a player for a long time, slightly different. I was really in control of my own destiny there, and how I played and how I performed when you're the manager of the club. Yeah, I have certain influence and I've got certain responsibilities and who I can bring in and stuff like that. But yeah, it's really how successful the team are, and if they keep listening to me, type of thing. So, but no, I think the longer term aim that myself and Michael were trying to put in with the club, I think I said it earlier in the podcast, is one of the things I felt we were guilty of was securing the right types of players at the club and securing them early enough, trying to build a foundation that we can continue to improve on. The clubs that have been successful at this level are usually born over 3 or 4 seasons, and they add wee bits every season. Some players, a couple of players will come in, a couple of players will go out, but it's very, very rarely a high turnover of players. When I look at management, I know Michael's exactly the same. We didn't go and play football just because we like playing football. We tried to play football at the best level that our ability would allow us to play football, but we played it because we want to be successful and you want to win things. Yeah, that's what it's about. You want to be, when it gets to the end of the season, you don't want to be sitting in mid-table. You certainly don't want to be fighting a relegation battle, but there is something to fight for, I suppose. But you want to be in the mix, challenging for honours, and you want to be trying to challenge for cup ties, cup finals and stuff like that. That's where you really want to be, and that I think that's the long term aim for me is, one, to give the community and the community in the town a club that they can be proud of, and to continue to advance, and continue to progress. Where that takes us, I have no idea, but I'm there to try and win and be successful. Yeah. Now, if that means does my long term aims involve winning the Lowland League? It absolutely does. It absolutely does, because I'm in the league. If I'm in the league, I want to win the league. Yeah. Whether the club is ready or to take a step up again, that's a completely different question. And the way that the structure is at the moment, in terms of winning leagues, and then you go to play playoffs, and then you go to play the Highland League, and in the bottom of the 3rd division. You win it. That's still you've got a very, very hard route to actually make that a possibility. But we've seen teams like Kelty have went in and done really, really well. Bonnyrigg are in and they're holding their own and doing really, really well. But again, certainly not getting ahead of myself. We're under no illusions as to how difficult that would be in itself. There's a lot of clubs that will be thinking the same, and I can't imagine there's any club in the Lowland League that's in it that doesn't have aspirations to be successful and go and try and win it. That's why you're in the league. Long term is to create a team that's competitive, is challenging, and if we're like that, if we can implement that and we can do that, then for me, then we'll be challenged at the top end of the table, which is where we want to be. Whether we can actually win it, I don't know, but that's certainly my ambition, because I'm not in anything unless I'm trying to win it.
Well, that's interesting because you have shown this season that you can have a very big spurt up the table in quite a short space of time. Whether you sustain that going into next season's that's another different question. Would you agree that there needs to maybe do something about this whole promotion relegation? Because I think it's the team that finishes bottom of the league of League Two is the one that's better off. It's. Would you agree that maybe it has to just be champions go up and two come down?
I would, on the face of it, I would say that makes sense. But I think the way that the voting works, I think it's a wee bit like turkeys voting for Christmas. So you're actually potentially asking people or clubs that maybe know they're going to be at the kind of bottom end, potentially put themselves up on offer that there's going to be automatic relegation. Whereas if they know if they finish at the bottom, they've still got the opportunity to win a playoff. Yeah. So they've still got that opportunity. But that's in essence the question you're asking. Do I think that if my understanding is correct, do I think that should change? Then yeah, I probably do. Yeah, I probably do. I understand that there is a problem there, because you've obviously got ourselves, you've got the Lowland League, the Highland League, etc., and stuff like that. So there needs to be something done there. But for me, if you finish bottom of your respective league, then there shouldn't be a playoff. You should be relegated, because that's ultimately the downside of finishing bottom. And if you finish top, you should be in with the best opportunity of being promoted, and certainly playing I don't mind that if you're playing a team at your own level, which is you would consider the Highland League and the Lowland League to be at the same level. So that wouldn't bother me so much. So yeah, I do think that there needs to be a review done there in terms of that.
And a more recent one, not quite going too far into the future, Costa Crookies has asked, I wonder if he can explain what's happening with Musa, who is the keeper, I presume.
Musa the Bagger is our keeper. Nothing's really happening with Musa. At the end of the day, Musa's a fantastic goalkeeper at this level. We're looking to retain his services for next season, and we're continuing to speak to him. So, but no, nothing major is kind of happening there. We're just he's one of the players we've earmarked that we want to keep. And we've spoke to him around about that, and we'll see where we get to in the next kind of few weeks and months, and see if that's something that's going to move into next season. The questions probably come up because we've brought in Jack Ruddy, as well as another goalkeeper. But again, it's conducive to what we're trying to do with the rest of the squad. Is if you don't have somebody putting pressure on you for your position, irrespective of whether you think it will or it won't, complacency will come in. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I played centre half. I think I said this earlier. I played centre half for a long time at the club, and almost every season, new centre halves come into the club. Whether they were there to replace me, but I had to then show that, well, no, that's my jersey. I'm going to keep the jersey, kind of thing. So now we're trying to make sure that we have competition in all areas of the park. And we lost our other goalkeeper, young Gregor Fullerton. He transferred to Stonyburn just before Christmas, so we're only really running with Musa as a number one goalie, and you can see that that's a risk in itself. As out with Musa, we were having to ask young Cody Thompson for the under-20s team to come into the squad as well, and that would have been him potentially playing Fridays and Saturdays. So you need two well-versed goalkeepers at this level, and especially you're talking about where we're currently sitting in the league. Goalkeeper is such a valuable position. You need to make sure you're well covered.
I'm starting to think the supporters do like you, Stuart. One who's asked this, Pint of the Usual has asked if the rumours are true that you're a candidate for the Liverpool job, which I can answer and say that this is the only job he wants in football right now is Bo'ness, so it's 100%. 100%. I was also asked to ask you in a Jim White voice, and just on the basis that I'm a small creator and I don't want to get any civil legal trouble with him for an impersonation. I was to ask, why are you so good?
No, I think I said, I know it's kind of done. These things are turning to you. At the end of the day, as I said before, we're just giving the guys a foundation. We're just trying to keep things simple and basic for them. Yeah, the plaudits very much go to the players for where we're sitting. So if he's talking about my playing days, then you're right. I was pretty decent at this level. But as a manager, no, like I says, very much. And I think it's, you see, the thing is, it's one of them. You mentioned it there a wee minute ago, Charlie. At the end of the day, yes, we've had so far we've done well. Yeah, there's certain parts of the season, certain games in the season where I think we've let ourselves down, and we've spoken about that as a group. But by and large, yeah, I can't feel to be happy with the progress that we've made. But it's the tough job is about continuing that forward, and then building on that for next season. Yeah, and not getting complacent and say, oh well, we maybe finished in this position this season, so next season it's just going to be a given. Anybody who's been in football or any sort of sport knows that's not the way. That's not the way the game pans out. If you're no continue to progress and advance, then you could easily find yourself sitting in a position next season where the comments maybe aren't quite as complimentary, and then everybody's pointing and looking at me going, why are we sitting in this position when we were at this position last season? So, yeah.
Our 2-day interval there actually gave an opportunity for an extra one here, which we actually spoke about during it. Ask him his opinion on Craig Napier, the referee, and if he reckons he has a grudge against him since he sent him off years ago in the Junior Cup.
That was the one we discussed up at Rutherglen and Cairn, and I couldn't remember the referee's name. It was Craig Napier, which is quite interesting because Craig Napier also sent off Ryan Stevenson when we played Morton earlier in the season, and he sent him off, and he sent him off for last man, and I thought it was incredibly harsh for him to send him off at that point. But no, I think, like I say, when you look at that, I don't think he's certainly got. I don't think I'm important enough to Craig Napier that he's got a grudge against me. Certainly not. And again, the first time he sent me off, his career's obviously then continued to rise, and his stock's risen, and I think he was written in the Premier League and stuff like that as well. So again, it's one of the ones. He's probably sent me off because he's been going by what he thinks he's seen, and two, by the letter of the law. Yeah, he's been doing things by the absolute book, and if you're looking to progress and you're looking to advance, then you can't really blame somebody for that. But no, to be honest, I was bitterly disappointed. That I did get sent off that day, but no, I don't think it's because there was some underlying grudge against me.
Do you reckon then the new blue card trial would have been more fair enough then? Maybe not a yellow, but sit out for 10 minutes.
Well, I don't know. See, the kind of thing was he booked me just before he sent me off, just before I scored at the corner, because their defender was basically grabbing me, and he shouted the 2 is over, and I kind of shouted at him, sitting going, "What are you calling me over?" He's pulling at my jersey, and he booked me because I shouted at him, and I'm like, so. That's one of the ones. I don't know if you'd have got a blue card because he had put it doing this inciting crowd trouble. So I don't know if that's a blue card offence. So I don't know. I think the introduction of a blue card, I don't know, we're going to need some exercise bikes at the side of the park, I think, which is going to be an added expense if we're getting boys sin binned and stuff like that. But again, I don't think it does any harm to trial these types of things. But I'm also a believer that sometimes you're trying to fix something that isn't necessarily broken.
Aye. Because I seen, was it Merson talking about it yesterday, saying about how guys, they'll just play like they've had a man sent off, they'll waste time, sit behind the ball until they get the man back, so it might actually just break games up. Well, Stuart, I don't want to keep you any longer, so I'll ask my final question, which is not in 5 years' time, it's more so if we were back here in a year's time and I asked you, have you done a good job? And you said, of course I've done a good job. I'd ask you why. What to you will be a good job in a year's time then?
A good job in a year's time was for us to be where we are at the current minute, and that's at the top end of the Lowland League, and having an impact on potential winners, stuff like that. I mean, even if you look at this season, East Kilbrae's got quite a sizable league. They're a really, really good squad, so it's probably theirs to lose at this moment in time, but we're still in there, we're still in the question, we're still in with a mix, big ask, and I think that's what I would see as progression. It doesn't always need to be as moving forward. I've sometimes had that kind of, when you look at like say the Premiership and stuff like that, is sometimes you need to up your game, and you need to invest, and you need to have the right people, sometimes just to stand still. So following on for this season, if we can match that next season and be in a position where we're sitting at the top end, I would like us to do a wee bit more in cup competitions as well. That would be a desire. That even if we're not winning leagues, then we're competing potentially at the latter stages of cup competitions and hopefully lifting a bit of silverware for the club. But if we're in the same position next year and we're in there and we're in the question coming into the kind of the tail end of the season, then for me that would be progress, because we've managed to maintain the standards that we've started off with and we've set this season and continued it on. And when you do that, that gives you that's a fantastic foundation to continue to build from. It's not looked upon as a Bo'ness have had a good season, and then next season you're kind of back where you used to be, or back where they expect you to be. You're maintaining that, so then you become, that becomes this is what's expected for the club, and I have no problems in creating that expectation, and then if I don't live up to the expectation or the team doesn't live up to the expectation, being accountable for that. But first and foremost, you've got to establish that. So that for me would be progression for me.
Well, it's another ground for me to tick off. I'm in debt to the Cumbernauld Colts and Montrose at the moment. Bo'ness is now another one. We'll be up at some point. I'll get in before he's at a full-time high-flying league team. Stuart, it's been a pleasure, mate. It's been great to finally have you on as well. It's been a wee welcome, and so thanks very much, mate.
Perfect. Thanks very much.